We sorted the above table in order of performance, considering both regular and DXR performance, which is why the RTX 3090 Ti sits above the RX 6950 XT, and the RTX 3080 is above the RX 6800 XT. Our subjective rankings below also factor in price, power, and features colored by our own opinions. Others may offer a slightly different take, but all of the cards on this list are worthy of your consideration. Number 1. GeForce RTX 3080. NVIDIA's GeForce RTX 3080 with the current NVIDIA Ampere architecture continues to occupy our top recommendation. However, we want to be clear that this now applies to all RTX 3080 cards, including the RTX 3080 Ti and RTX 3080 12GB depending on current prices. Right now, the best deals we can find are $740 for the 10GB card, $760 for the 12GB model, or $800 for the 3080 Ti. If you're serious about maxing out all the graphics settings and you want to play at 4K or 1440, this is the card to get. DLSS also works without ray tracing and is currently available in over 200 games, so it's definitely a feature that's worth a bit extra. AMD offers the Universal FSR 2.0 as an alternative to DLSS, but it's not in nearly as many games. The one major concern with buying an RTX 3080 series card right now is the looming presence of NVIDIA's next-generation RTX 40 series GPU. We've seen a bunch of leaks and reported specs now, and we expect NVIDIA's CEO will tell us more during his September 27 GTC keynote. If history is any indication, the top RTX 40 series GPU could launch a week or two later. That makes the prospect of spending $700 or more on a soon-to-be previous generation GPU a questionable move. Number 2. Radeon RX 6800 XT. AMD Navi 21 GPU like the Radeon RX 6800 XT represent the best cards for Team Red. The RX 6800 XT provides a massive boost in performance and features relative to the previous generation RX 5700 XT, as well as adding ray tracing support via DirectX ray tracing or Vulkan RT thanks to the RDNA 2 architecture. At current prices, which have dropped quite a bit in the past few months, the RX Radeon 6900 XT and RX 6800 are also worth a look. The 6900 XT, for example, now costs 17% more for about 5% higher performance, while the RX 6800 drops performance by 7% and also costs 7% less. The Navi 21 GPU was affectionately dubbed Big Navi prior to launch by the enthusiast community, and we got exactly what we wanted. It's over twice the size of the previous generation Navi 10, with twice the shader cores and twice the RAM. A big part of AMD performance comes thanks to the massive 128 MB Infinity Cache. It improves the effective bandwidth by 119%, according to AMD. Few if any games need more than 16 GB, so the 6800 XT is in a great position in that area. What's not to like? The ray tracing performance is mediocre. Due to AMD lack of hardware BVH traversal, it uses GPU shaders for that. There's also no tensor cores or DLSS, though FSR 2.0 at least partially makes up for that. As with NVIDIA's top GPU, the biggest concern is the upcoming RDNA 3. If you don't already have one of AMD top GPU, waiting for the RX 7000 series to arrive before the end of the year makes more sense than plunking down $600 or more on a GPU from 2 years ago. Number 3. GeForce RTX 3090 Ti. NVIDIA's Ada architecture is coming. For some, the best graphics card is the fastest card. Pricing be damned. NVIDIA's GeForce RTX 3090 Ti caters to this category of user. At more than double the official starting price of the RTX 3080, performance is only moderately better, 20–30% in most workloads. It's also only 5–10% faster than the previous RTX 3090, with an even higher MSRP. But online prices are plummeting from the official MSRP, and the RTX 3090 Ti can now be found for as little as $1,100. Opens a new tab. That's because even though the RTX 3090 Ti currently reigns as NVIDIA's top GPU, the next generation NVIDIA Ada Lovelace GPU aren't too far away, and NVIDIA and its partners are busy trying to clear out old RTX 30 series inventory. The RTX 3090 Ti has uses outside of gaming, and NVLink support means you can pair two cards for professional apps and GPU compute workloads. The 24 GB of GDDR6X memory is also helpful in a variety of content creation applications. Blender, for example, frequently show 35% higher performance compared to the 3080, and over twice the performance of the Titan RTX. You'll need the even more expensive NVIDIA RTX 6000 for the full professional driver suite. AMD RX 6950 XT challenges the RTX 3090 Ti in traditional rasterization performance and wins in a few USB-C viewperf tests. But if you want the absolute fastest graphics card right now, NVIDIA wins, especially if you run games with ray tracing and DLSS enabled. Just be warned that NVIDIA's next-generation RTX 4090 might soon make the 3090 Ti look like lukewarm gravy. Number 4. Radeon RX 6700 XT. And you have AMD Navi 22 and the RX 6700 XT. The RX 6750 XT is basically the same GPU, with a slight boost to clock speeds, memory speeds, and power consumption about 5% faster overall, but with a 12% price hike. The 6700 XT has the same number of GPU cores as the previous generation RX 5700 XT, but significantly higher clock speeds and more cache give it about a 25% boost to performance at higher settings and resolutions, at least. During testing, the RX 6700 XT had clock speeds in excess of 2.5 GHz while gaining, and that's at stock on the reference card. Factory overclocked models can push that closer to 2.7 GHz. Still without cooking the GPU. In our performance testing, the RX 6700 XT traded blows with the RTX 3070 and RTX 3060 Ti. It's a bit faster than the latter, and a bit slower than the former, but the going price of around $420 lands below both of those. Still, if we include pretty much any games with DLSS or ray tracing, the 6700 XT comes in behind the 3060 Ti and almost looks like a 3060 competitor. This card has moved up in our overall rankings thanks to its excellent online prices. It's currently available at prices starting just below the official MSRP. Keep an eye on the newer RX 6750 XT as well, as it could end up being a better option if prices continue to drop. We don't expect a mainstream RX 7000 replacement until 2023 either, but we could be wrong about that. Number 5. GeForce RTX 3060. As we approach the lowest end of the price and performance ladder with NVIDIA's desktop Ampere lineup, the cuts to processing power become more significant. The RTX 3060 uses NVIDIA's GAM106 GPU, with a 192-bit memory interface and 12GB VRAM. That's quite a bit better than the RTX 3050, but still a big step down from the GAM104 chip used in RTX 3060 Ti, which has 36% more GPU cores. Overall performance is similar to the RTX 2070, so 2.5 years later, you can now match a $500 graphics card with a $330 alternative, except the RTX 3060 still tends to sell for closer to $400. At least the RTX 3060 delivers a great overall value, factoring in ray tracing and DLSS performance. VRAM capacity isn't a problem, and there are a few instances where the 3060 starts to close the gap with the 3060 Ti. It never quite gets there, however, and the 3060 Ti may be the better choice if you can find one at a reasonable price. At present, it's an $80 jump to the 3060 Ti, making this or one of AMD offerings a better value. Discounting ray tracing and DLSS, in our testing the RTX 3060 ends up being roughly the same performance as AMD RX 5700 XT. 18 months later, that's not going to set the world on fire, but then that's typical of mainstream parts. With DXR and DLSS, however, the 3060 can even trade blows with AMD RX 6800. We'll likely see an RTX 4060 replacement sometime in 2023. Number 6. Radeon RX 6650 XT. AMD answered to the RTX 3060 comes via the Navi 23 architecture. Normally, we'd expect a 32 CU variant of Navi 22, dubbed the RX 6700 non-XT, but AMD trimmed CU counts, memory interface width, and infinity cache sizes to get a smaller and less expensive chip that still performs well. Note that the Radeon RX 6700 now exists, with 10GB of VRAM. Though it costs quite a bit more, performance ends up slightly above the previous gen RX 5700 XT, which is impressive considering the memory bus has been cut in half to just 128 bits. There's understandable concern with the 8 GB of VRAM, however, and there are certainly cases where the RTX 3060 ends up as the better choice. Still, it's surprising how much even a 32 MB Infinity cache seems to boost performance. When you look at the memory bandwidth, this is basically a chip that's smaller than Navi 10, built on the same TSMC N7 node, and it delivers 10–15% better frame rates at 1080p. There are instances where it struggles, however, ray tracing being a big one. Several games that we tested with DXR DirectX ray tracing support couldn't even do 20 FPS at 1080p. NVIDIA's RTX 3060 was about twice as fast without using DLSS, and typically got an additional 40% faster with DLSS quality mode. FSR doesn't really fix that either, since it provides a similar boost in performance to both AMD and NVIDIA and even Intel GPU. After delivering impressive amounts of VRAM on the other big Navi chips, the RX 6650 XT and RX 6600 XT feel like a letdown. That's reflected in current online pricing, which has helped turn things around a bit. The RX 6600 XT has a $379 MSRP and the RX 6650 XT bumped that to $399, but both are available starting at $300. AMD isn't due to replace its current mid-range offerings until sometime later in 2023, so hope you enjoyed our video and subscribe to the channel. We have also put links to description, make sure you have check it out. We will be right there in next video. Take care, bye.